The following content has been provided by New St. Andrews College in Moscow, Idaho. For more information, visit us online at nsa.edu.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison. That's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
And we're off to podcast around the town this time. We have you with us whilst we drive.
We have a whole selection of background noises.
Yeah, so we're going to go get ourselves a coffee, and we're grabbing a coffee for our friend Elise Crapuchettes, who has a new book that just came out or is coming out. Did it actually launch yet?
Innovation station.
Well,
we're on the move, and we're putting someone in the back seat.
But I'd like to mention that it's kind of awesome that we live in a town where we could just drive out and pick up an author we like.
Exactly.
It's ideal. Like, we should make this a regular feature that we're somewhere to bother one of the authors
it
we
was
like.
very handy that she was free, because Rachel just called her like 10 minutes ago to say,
Maybe.
hey,
she's actually on a walk with her husband, and we're going to
jump
get
into the back seat?
We're going to get a better read on her locale after we get the drinks. And then we'll pick her
and
up.
then we can pick her up mid-walk.
So it's beautiful November weather here. It's like gray and wet, and it snowed a little bit today, but not enough to stick. Just like
just enough
mostly
to frost
just
the edges.
all the leaves are
soggy.
And I've been baking bread like.
Oh, that's very luscious of you.
Well, it's just kind of had to happen.
I've been mopping
today.
my floor. I left it half mopped to come out. And
I should have been mopping, but I have 8 loaves coming and then a bunch of rolls for dinner tonight, so it's been a bread-oriented day. But my kids have been doing the thing where they're like so excited to be home in this weather. Like, we had a fire, and everyone is in the mood where they're like rummaging in with wool blankets and all their craft supplies everywhere. Which is super fun, except for that we're having people over for lunch tomorrow. So we're going to have to get back out of that mood.
I bought one today because it was so like perfect and fall and beautiful and sort of like
Where'd
a dark.
you buy it?
You know, the new one.
Marshalls.
We
have a Marshalls, guys, but it doesn't have any scenic overlook, so we're not going to park behind it.
Yeah. But I bought this throw blanket and it's adorable. But the problem is, it basically means I'm going to have to reupholster 4 armchairs. And that's not happening. So I'm just going to have a bad clash.
Was it just for it to match those ones that you got that are the wood frame ones? Is that what you're talking about?
I need to reupholster those anyway because they're so weird and damask-y and
But
stuff.
is that the ones you're talking about?
Yeah. They're the ones that no longer harmonize with the throw blanket I just bought.
That's the ultimate move right there. Buy the accessory that ruins the main.
Yeah, but the accessory that would harmonize quite well with the painting I've been meaning to paint to hang on the wall.
Basically, this is a start at the most practical spot.
But it was a quick, you better get that throw blanket because it's adorable and it won't be here after I upholster my chairs and paint a painting, so I'm going to have to do it now.
Yeah, will it drive you to action sooner?
Well, Ben told me I'm not allowed to. He was like, no, if you need to craft something, channel it into tiling the entryway. I was like, oh, crumb, you're right. I probably should do that.
Stink. Why did I tell you I was doing that project? How did this come up?
He's like, do it. Do the floor before we break out any upholstery fabric. And I have to say he has reason on his side.
Yeah, he does have reason on his side.
But you know how these things are. It's the first domino is the throw blanket. And
well, one of the troubles in our home was built in the 60s, late 60s, and it has this bizarre angled wall in the living room and the kitchen. So it's the same wall, but it's angled in the 2 rooms.
Right.
It's a gentle point.
It's like concave in one room and convex in the other.
and it makes no sense beyond the fact that it was the late 60s.
No,
why you would have done it.
It added some interesting flair.
Well, it added something, but what it was, so the kitchen kind of has a point in the wall. And it comes, anyways, it's fine. It's a livable situation. We block on the living room side, I just have something covering it up. Like, let's not look at this weird angle. It's our effort. But the problem is that wall has always been the one that we consider just ripping out in times of boredom.
Oh yeah.
When we have a down moment, we're like, maybe we should tear this wall out, but we don't.
If you had been Merkel's,
If
you
we
would've.
were Merkel's, that wall would have been out since the first week we lived in that house. But instead, it has stayed with us all this time.
Yeah.
But we keep
More
like
sensibly.
we keep like not tearing it out yet. Well, then the microwave that is in the hood, like it's a hood microwave, died.
Perfect.
But those are not cheap,
No,
and
they are
it's
not
installed
cheap.
in the bad wall.
Oh.
So in order to like invest the money in a microwave hood, we'd have to want to invest in that wall, which none of
Yeah.
us want to do. So instead, we've learned to live without a microwave. And I think it's actually maybe been like 3 years now we've not had a microwave. But no, that's not true. We've not had a working microwave. We have a
Right.
dead one installed in the wall.
Well, that's kind of handy. You can probably keep things in it. Bread box. Use it as
I
your
hadn't
bread box.
really thought about this, but I guess I could.
It's
know,
a way of
start putting
storing
stuff in there, but
snacks you don't want the kids to find.
I could probably put stocking stuffers in there,
Yeah, exactly.
except for the fact that that wouldn't be big enough.
That's the trouble.
Hard times had by all.
Exactly. So we're in the Starbucks drive-thru, guys, and I think you're gonna just have to ride through it with us because
That's all right. You can email us your preferences on a coffee drink. we'll buy you something.
also I've not had time to clean out my car. There's a lot of things I've not had time for, and we're putting Elise in
There's
this
a
car.
half gallon of half and half at my feet.
Yeah.
And I said, there's half and half in here. And she said, it's trying to be cheese. Is it still?
It doesn't. It's not good.
No, I mean, is it sealed?
No.
It's been opened.
Here's the question, guys. Why do I still have a creme brulee torch in my car, a half a gallon of half and half, some bits of trim from my house, some tin foil?
It's not as bad as you make it sound. I have to say that
pretty bad.
Mom recently rebuked me for our podcast where she's like, Rachel, you made it sound like you don't ever do your hair.
You did, actually. I listened to it later. I was like, that sounds
I
really
said,
weird.
did I make it sound like
Okay,
I just
hold
don't
on.
even brush my
Pause.
hair or do anything?
Pause. We have to order.
Yeah.
Hold that thought.
How come it's started for you?
Yeah, can I get a tall chai tea latte?
She's ordering us drinks.
Chocolate and one.
Anyways, the point-
Hold on. What was it you wanted?
A flat white, tall flat white.
One tall
With
flat white with
2%.
2%, please.
You got it. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
1076 is the window. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyways, the point Mom was like, Rachel, you made it sound like you're a total train wreck and never doing your hair. So guys, I wanted to set the record straight but for my mother's sake. She was like, what nonsense is this?
It is true.
Your
It is
announcements of not
true.
doing your hair.
You did make it
I
sound
guess
weird.
I think I don't know what I was saying, but I think I meant I'm a really bad.
You said that
I'm
like
a
for your
really
whole
bad-
life you never did your hair. Like you made
yeah,
it.
okay. I meant what
You
I
made
meant
it
was,
sound like you're one of those saggy ponytail people.
yeah,
that
I'm
just
founding
never.
father. Here's the thing. What I think I meant was that I've never been someone who is remembering to book a salon appointment every 6
Yeah.
weeks or something. I'm
Sure.
just not good at that. But I do try to keep my hair looking at, not a straggle muffin of doom. Hopefully. So just setting the record straight.
Hi,
I guess.
good.
May need to edit some of this.
Right. Okay, thank you. This is so hilarious.
What were
I
you
can't
going to
believe
change the name?
We're doing the podcast on the road, which gives it even less.
We should have just podcasted while we shopped at Goodwill, but
Exactly. But it's like this is even less sort of structured than our normal unstructured.
well, we'll park once we get Elise. And then maybe we'll send someone back to edit out the whole first section of this podcast. So,
Maybe
what were
we
you
will,
were changing
maybe
the
we
subject?
won't. Okay, so we've gotten a few questions, I feel like, on Facebook about just sort of thinking about girls in college. And
Oh, that's right.
what are
Oh,
we...
there was that one big question. Did you read that big long one that I said we'd try to talk about? That one.
Well, that was the most recent one, and I feel like we've had that question before of like, what are we doing? What is if you're kind of young, single, what should you be planning
Well,
for?
it's
Especially
like-
if you want to get married and have kids.
You want to get married and have kids. Why are you just going to pretend in the meantime like you're getting a business degree? Because that's your dream.
And I do think that some of this has to do with what's your view of education, because I do think modern Americans tend to think of education as preparing you for one specific job. You have to like pick the job you want, and then you have to complete this little checklist of educational things in order to qualify you for it. And I think instead of that, and that if you're thinking of it that way, then it does seem super silly. It's like, well, why, if I want to get married, why would I, go get myself ready for, I don't know, becoming an architect when I don't want to do that. But if you think of education instead as being shaping you as a person rather than qualifying you for a particular job.
Right.
But that is a very fundamentally different way of looking at education. Like, this is changing you, it's shaping you.
Right. And I would say that we do think it's stupid to just go to college just for, like, if you don't have a clear thing that you would be bettered by learning, or if there's not a clear thing that is like, this degree will equip me for thus and such. But for young Christian women, it is a really difficult phase. That is the phase that that what you want is to be married and have children. But God has not brought a man along at this point
Sure,
yet.
but it's like, do you want to be...
But it's like an awkward teenager phase where, like, your limbs are too long for like, you're just in a weird, like, knobby-kneed, kind of long limbs, but not settled into your to your size. And sometimes the thing is that you do not know, like, you don't know if God has that for you next. You know what I mean? Like, or how soon, or like, and so what you have to do is practice kind of wild contentment with not settling and not letting yourself rest. Like, well, I'm ready to do what I want to do, so I'm not going to use this opportunity that God has given me to keep.
But also, like, you are not going to be a worse wife and mother
for having learned more.
For having become more well-rounded, to have broadened your mind, to have sharpened your mind, to have gotten better at. There's a car trying to pass.
We're about to get in a podcast live wreck.
Podcast wreck.
We want to do that.
That would be good.
So basically, don't quit your education because you think you've arrived at readiness.
Right.
Because there's so many things that if I could go back to that phase of life, and I don't regret anything, I'm happy with how.
Should I go behind or should I go up front?
I don't know. Yeah, go behind. I guess I'll go behind. So I don't regret things that I did at that phase, but I would, if I could go back, I think I would know more how much I wanted to get done more than I did. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, oh my word, no. I remember specifically thinking, make hay while the sun shines. You know what I mean? Like, let's not waste this chance to learn some things. But there's so many things that are much harder when you're juggling more in life. They're just harder later, and it's like, do it while you have that opportunity. Learn and push yourself, because you will be interrupted later.
Right.
You just will be. You want.
Oh, here she is.
Where is she? Oh, there she is.
And there's a car behind me. So
And we're just driving away from her.
we're just doing that. All right, so we're gonna have to just like pause this thought, and we're picking up Elise, and we are gonna talk to Elise about her book.
I don't know.
Or whatever we might want.
Oh, she's got earmuffs on.
Hello! Hi!
Welcome.
to my ugly, bad, dirty car.
Coordinated earmuffs.
Well, yes.
Those are awesome.
They actually are. They have the headphone.
Nice.
Oh,
Get in.
that's really
Get in.
cool. Excuse this, Elise. Just don't look over here. But if
That's your hot chocolate, though. Look at
if
that.
you need,
So sweet. Thank you.
if you need tin foil, it's there. If you
gold
need
spray
lacrosse
paint.
gloves,
Do you
it's
have gold
there.
spray paint?
I might. We could have a little
I need
look.
some foam board. We're building a tabernacle.
Wait, what classes?
6th grade. Daphne needs to be building a tabernacle.
Already?
Yeah, it's due before Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, that's a
Oh.
long way out.
I know, but Annabelle and John Henry are super into doing it ahead of time. I have some others who are super
Yeah.
into 9:30 the night before.
We had someone get that. No, you did.
We
Did we
did.
both? Did we both have someone who had to confess one
Yeah.
time pretending the deadline was sooner because they wanted to work on it? Like they're like,
We had one
I
of
just said that the ziggurat was due tomorrow because I wanted to and stayed up until like 10:30.
That's funny. That's really
Yeah.
funny.
Desperation crafting
Busted
right
for
there.
dishonesty.
Yes. So this is Elise, our friend who just wrote a book. Yeah.
Hi.
And apparently didn't know. Apparently
No, we
didn't know
just-
that the
we
recorder
just-
was already
We've
going.
been driving around with it on.
It's all right. We
I
might.
am familiar with this recorder. In fact, it is sort of the bane of my existence because
Oh.
I have to use it for Thrive every month.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Ladies Fellowship
Yep.
thing, and I usually do it wrong.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
we hope that we didn't do it wrong this time.
Well,
but we have before.
it might be best if we did to clear out some of the things
some of
that
the
we
stuff
said already.
we've said, yeah. So where do
You
we
don't
wanna-
need to buckle unless you want to.
Should
Go
we just
Oh,
sit here?
You don't drive.
Do you wanna
just
keep
We
sit.
driving?
could. We've been driving around town ordering things.
Sometimes we start at a place that's prettier than just in a parking lot. But
That's all right.
yeah, but I want to
This
know.
is good.
Okay, tell us the main
Let me turn
like.
off these.
Yeah, you should. Well, something it's feeling stuffy in here.
It's stuffy.
I
What's
have on
happening?
leggings under my jeans.
So you're
you're
gonna need
ready.
the window cracked probably after this
I
event.
took off the space jacket here.
Yeah. Okay, so can you give us the elevator pitch for your book?
Oh, I can try. So I wrote a book because someone asked me to write a book, but
We've both been there.
Yeah. But the other reason
the
that you wrote the
accidental
book.
Yeah.
author.
Yeah. We know
So-
so many accidental authors.
It's the best kind, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I wrote it about this question about vocation and what women should do with their lives because I think it's an important question. And as I was looking at history, I was noticing, hey, other women have had the same question and phrased in a different way, but it's a parallel
Yeah.
dilemma for them. And particularly in the time of the Reformation, the Catholic Church, which was the dominant social force, was saying that women had to be nuns if they wanted to do anything sort of holy with their lives.
Right.
or
And
useful.
everything else was like just sort of
Second
low
class
level
citizens.
generic
Yeah,
brand life. You
Pretty
weren't.
much.
Yeah.
You weren't. At least if you were a nun, you could be working towards salvation, and you had a hope of getting there.
Gosh,
And the rest-
depressing.
Well, yes.
There's
And-
so much. I just have to say, people. I'm totally interrupting, but people who think that we should go back to some of this wonderful liturgy and things, it's so much dress ups because they're like, I want to keep on all the gifts of the Reformation and the freedom that I have to think I
Right.
can pray and I can read my own Bible.
Right.
But then I'd like to add back in
Right.
this pompous ceremony.
Well, I just think if one of your tenets is that these women are going to have a spiritual consummation marriage with their marriage with Christ after they get to heaven, that's maybe a reason just to strike it.
Just to say,
Like
the
that-
whole situation's bad.
Let's stop.
That was that book of the Diary of Marjorie Kemp that I somehow got
Okay, so
tricked
she's
into.
really bad.
She's the pit of
super bad.
despair. So I signed up for reading that as a special
I
project
don't
at
know
some.
why someone offered that as an
Well, it
option
was
to
like
you.
on a long list of things, and I'm like, interesting. A diary of a medieval
people
woman.
shouldn't write
Let me read that. Well, I thought this would be like a captivating look at the normal life of a medieval woman. What it was absolutely
You hope
appalling,
not.
right?
You hope it's not the normal life of a
No,
medieval
because
woman.
doesn't she like
It's
leave
terrible.
her family? But that whole thing of the consummation with Christ, she's super
No,
skis
I
bomb
thought
about
I
that.
thought she's the one that said to her husband, "How about we just live as like roommates?"
Yeah,
Oh,
no
yeah.
more sex for you because it's not godly. But they had like a lot of kids already. But then she left on a journey.
Oh, and she never
She got
came back.
called away from her life with all of her kids to go have horrifying, just despicable dreams about this consummation thing and
Oh,
refused
oh.
and then
I
never
didn't get
did
to
come
this part
back.
of her.
Yeah, you shouldn't. It's awful.
Is she British?
Yeah, I think.
Because I focus mainly on the continent.
Yeah.
Problems,
Yes,
not the
but
British problems.
it was the pit of despair. Like I thought I was going to see some intriguing, like kind of like going to Williamsburg or something. Like, oh, I'll
Yeah,
get a
but
little
no.
glimpse, and instead I got a little glimpse into the hell that was the religion of the medieval times.
This is terrible.
Like it's like this is
So, anyways,
so bad. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, so in a similar to what I thought was there's this parallel between this Catholic situation and then what the feminists are saying now, which is you have to leave your family, just like the nuns had to leave their families, if you want to do something worthwhile and useful with your life. Obviously, our whole society isn't trying to be saved in the way that medieval society
No,
was
it's like
looking for
self-empowered,
salvation.
though. It is like a...
It is our version of salvation. It's
Temporal
self-fulfillment.
salvation.
It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happiness. It's fulfilling your dreams. Being free to be you.
Yeah.
All the things that are
Since
so
we don't believe in eternity.
Being important.
You have to do it right
You have
now.
to do it.
do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And since you don't believe in eternity, you don't have 10 years to spare for your kid's childhood, or like
No,
you don't
because
have
this
that.
is
You're
it.
like, no, this is all I get. I have to keep it all for me because I don't have.
So you're doing a parallel between feminists asking us to give everything up for ourselves.
Right, and the nuns saying,
And how the
effectively-
answer to in the Reformation, the answer to the church is the same answer we should be giving the feminists, right?
And then looking at the lives of these women who actually lived out that answer. So the Reformers' wives, other women in the Reformation.
I'm
and
excited to read it. We should have given you more notice and begged for copies.
If you give me more notice, I could have just brought you 2 copies.
That's what I'm saying. We should have given you more notice that we were going to have
Even
you
just
on the
another,
podcast.
Like another 7 minutes.
Luckily, I
Let's
think
put it
we
out.
could find. I think we could find.
Okay,
I
so
think
it's
you
we
know
haven't
the
even
place
said what
where
it's
they are.
called. It's called Popes and Feminists,
Yes.
which is, and it has a great cover. I love the cover.
Oh, I'm glad you like the cover.
I feel like it's frameable, you know?
I like the well, she's a bathroom lady.
Yeah, the little bathroom lady
Looks
with the
good.
Pope hat
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
top. Yeah, I like it a lot.
There's some good going on.
So, what ladies did you cover then, sort of more specifically?
So I want to know, because in your talk at
That's
the
a
Grace
different
Agenda,
question.
No. In your talk at the Grace Agenda, the one about
Totally
Butzer,
interrupting.
Elizabeth Butzer,
Yes.
that quote that you shared of hers needs to be made into a wall hanging in her
I
kitchen.
quoted it at Ben last night.
I quote it in my own life all the time, and I just think that no one makes cute printables of this.
Tell us what it is again, because I think I misquoted it.
Let's see. So Martin, her husband Martin, is writing a letter, and he says, "Well, Elizabeth doesn't have time to write, and so she's not going to write you, or she doesn't like writing, so she's not going to write you." And she comes in and she writes this postscript. I would like to write, but I don't have time. Just pray for us. I've got to go to the kitchen.
Yeah, I just think that phrase, and I might be misquoting it, but pray
Well,
for
I'm
me.
probably
I'm going to the
I
kitchen
think it was
now.
like pray to God for us.
Yes,
I'm going
pray to
the
God for us.
kitchen.
I'm going to the kitchen.
Yeah.
It is such an excellent, in summary, we need you to intercede for us as I once again go to the kitchen. Because that's why I can't write you and I don't have time.
That's
That's
true.
why.
It's true. She was great. She was always having people over, and I think she had 11 children. I get confused on how many children each of them had and how many.
I'm kind of
Right.
interested in their hospitality, though. Wasn't their hospitality more... Oh, that's
it's making
bad.
a rumble. I don't
It's
know why.
bad.
The rumbling.
Well,
Why do you have so much half and half?
This is only the tip of the iceberg.
this is the half and half that's going bad. Is this half and half that's not supposed to be in the car? It's a half gallon, a half and
I
half.
have a creme brulee torch if you need that.
We could
I
make
have I have a dirty knife that's not mine and I don't know why it's here.
So, anyways, back to the
Back
main
to the-
issue.
This is the pray to God for me. I clearly
she's
should
go-
be going to the
Going to the
kitchen.
car.
I just think I mean that hospitality at that time was not like having friends over for fun times. It was probably people who really needed food, needed help,
Well,
needed,
so-
Or nuns
Katie
getting.
and Martin Luther, their wedding night, somebody shows up at midnight. I need help. It's a refugee.
Refugee, yeah.
It's somebody that they're fleeing from the Catholic Church, and so that's when they first started their hospitality, and it never
Well,
stopped.
I feel like that's probably a real foretaste for them of how
Yes.
life was going to be.
Yes.
right?
Because I think they had 40 bedrooms
Whoa.
or something. They're in the
So they
abandoned
lived
cloister,
in
right?
like an
So
abbey or
It
something.
was
Wow.
the Black Cloister, so it had been a monastery, and they have orders.
That
and they
sounds
have
actually
students,
kind of
theologians
awesome.
and refugees. Yeah, I think cleaning it up was less awesome.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think
And a bit
especially when
drafty.
cleaning
A
it up
little
with
drafty.
problems like fleas. I mean, like
Yes.
that would have been hard. But I think though that the thing that so tell me what you
But I don't think they cleaned the fleas because they expected fleas in their beds, fleas in their clothes, fleas everywhere. So
that was a thing.
Just
Yeah,
part
I
of
don't
life.
think they knew that was part of the plague. They knew you could get the plague from other people, but I don't think they realized that fleas were an issue. So
Oh man.
I mean,
Little
Maybe it
things
just
to be
wasn't
grateful for. Just little
possible,
ones.
Yeah. To clean
It's,
them.
it'd be
That's the
it'd be
issue.
tough times now to locate a person who just had fleas. I mean, I'm sure you could. I'm sure there is, but
And aren't we so thankful?
yeah, I was
I
like
know.
the idea that would be like.
I think that's probably because of the Reformation. It has to be.
I think
yeah,
it is.
no
I
doubt.
think
Let's
it
take
is.
credit for that. Let's do.
Let's
So
Well, the
I want to
scientific
know.
revolution, you really can draw a straight line from the Reformation to there. So I do think we can take credit for it.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it
We'll do
right
that.
now.
Great.
So here's what I want to know.
Luckily,
What
I
was
had that
most
on hand.
when you talked
I
about
don't know
this?
what else you have on hand, but probably
So Elise talked about this during the Grace Agenda with like whenever that was a while ago.
April, maybe?
Yeah, so you two, because
No,
you were
it was
writing
April.
it, you were
Yeah.
writing the book then. So one of the things that I thought was the big takeaway, my big takeaway that I've continued to think about, was just what would that caliber of woman with that much heart for the gospel, like that much, like my life is for this.
Right.
Which you have to admit was a benefit of some of them having been stupidly committed to
That's what I was going to say.
religion
Like,
of being nuns.
coming
because
out of
they
being a
came
nun.
out of that, and what didn't change was the level of commitment.
Right.
What changed was the freedom to do it in other places. And what we lack now is people having any concept of giving your life for anything. Like, right?
And what actually giving your life means. I mean, when you
Right.
because if you look at the schedule that they were in, the Katie Luther's convent, I think there were 7 services. I mean, they're waking them up in the night, all through the night to have
Oh.
these services, even when she's 10 years old. So she has
Yeah.
to get up and participate in all of this, and you can't talk.
And you're
Wow.
like working all the time. Like you're not
Right.
You're
So she was a
worshiping.
nun
convents.
from the time she was 10.
6, her parents sent her to a
6.
convent. But then you would just be there for education, and then they committed her to a different one that was cheaper, because it's called a cloister dowry. You pay
Okay.
the cloister dowry, and that gets you into a convent. But depending on what you pay, is what kind of convent you could get into. So there were aristocratic convents,
Okay.
but you wouldn't.
So
But-
She wasn't in one of those.
But I guess
Poor
my
family.
point is you take someone with that kind of expectation of life, and then you're like, no, you get to do this freely for the gospel for other people, and they had so much drive and ability to just lay their life down.
Well, God had given them all these things that didn't look like gifts in the convent, and then they
Yeah.
used all of it to
Right.
spread the Reformation,
But
which was pretty
so when I
amazing.
think about those women, and I'm like, what would someone with that much heart for the gospel be doing in my life? Like,
More is what I think, probably.
well, that's
Yeah,
but
I
no,
know.
that's my
That's
point.
more,
But I mean, it's
right?
just a good thought experiment
Yeah.
about what are the ways in which I'm just really soft in some areas and don't even think I could give that. You know, like, oh, I could, that would be too much, or this would be, you know, like you rule it out like that's unreasonable. But they were very unreasonable people. But because
Had
they
to be,
were,
yeah.
God accomplished so much through their lives that it makes you think, okay,
Well,
what
I
are the
think
things
one
that
of the
we ought
things
to do?
Ben and I were just talking about, though, is that he was saying a real commitment to...
I'm rolling a window down.
All right.
feeling
Well,
hot
you're the
here.
one that turned on the rumbling heater.
I was
and then-
trying to get the air to. I didn't want us
know.
to turn into
All
a
right.
fog machine. in
Anyway,
here.
if you combine a real high level of learning with basic Christian disciplines of piety and practical Christianity, that is an almost unstoppable combination. It's like you put those things together, that's the Reformation. That's
You're
the
saying
founding of
learning,
the US.
piety, and what was
It's,
the other thing?
a commitment to learning, like a real
Yeah.
the
Ongoing,
Renaissance,
an ongoing
the sort of the
commitment.
humanism of the Renaissance. When you had that, and then you combine it with a recovery of basic Christian disciplines, it's like this explosive thing that can't help but change the world.
That's interesting, and yeah, that makes perfect sense, because I mean, even looking at the Catholic culture at the time, like most of the priests, many of the priests didn't really know their Bibles. They weren't, like the nuns weren't always literate, even though they were in charge of educating people. So
Right.
then when the
Yeah.
reformers come in and they're actually really educated,
Yeah.
and they were all very educated people, that of course then they're committed to the gospel and they're committed to
Right.
And the thing now,
that's why it
like
exploded.
Yeah.
it goes directly back to the Reformation that we have an expectation that every human should learn to read.
It is. Oh, that's
Like,
true.
like
you're
that
gonna
goes
go
directly
through-
back to
yeah.
the Reformation, but it is also true that that was an incredible raising of the standard for average people.
Yes.
Like to say everyone
But also,
needs
if you,
to be able to
and
do
they
you
this.
look
started
at the-
schools. Actually, they started public schooling because
Yeah.
of
Right.
that.
And then, but if you look at all the corruptions of the church, part of it was an attempt to get back to basic Christian disciplines, because so many things had been tolerated for so long.
Well, if people didn't have access to their
enabled by the
Bible,
bad theology.
how did they know if it wasn't allowed? Like only the people who had a Bible who
But even if you had a Bible, the Pope's word was above the Bible, so it doesn't matter.
It didn't matter
Well,
that much.
and there's
says.
the best line from Chaucer, the Canterbury Tales, when he introduces the parson, which people think is Wycliffe. And so actually Chaucer, there was at least one person who was martyred for having a copy of the Canterbury Tales because you were suspected of lawlordry if you had it.
For liking him.
But it was because he is scathing about the abuses of the church, just scathing. And then he has one guy in there who's a member of the clergy who is not corrupt, and it's the parson, and they think it's Wycliffe. But he says that first he wrought and afterwards he taught. So he actually did what he said. And then he has this little sort of aside where he says, if the gold rust, what can poor iron do? Like if the gold of the church is rusted,
So sad.
How can the people not, the iron will rust if the gold is rusted. So
It feels. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
It feels very. It's like a televangelist, like Jimmy Baker or whatever.
Yeah.
But if that were the only person who represented the church, the head of all the church, there's no other option, and you don't have a Bible, so whatever he says goes.
Yeah.
That.
And this is bringing
It'd be so
it
horrible.
bringing
Like
it back to
suddenly.
what I was saying earlier about people now who want to play with Catholicism or Orthodoxy or whatever, but they always want to keep on their long jumps of the Reformation, like, right? You're like,
I could still read the Bible and disagree with
you're
you.
like,
No,
oh
you
well,
can't.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you're like,
That's
oh
the
right,
deal.
because when you say I'm just going to additionally confess things to a priest instead of like I'm not allowed to talk to Christ, like
You're not
I
getting
couldn't
it.
be heard. Yeah, I couldn't. I have no access there. You're like, no, you're trying to keep on all the benefits of the Reformation.
Tell me how this applies then to feminism. That's a really interesting connection.
So I think that what feminism is doing is saying, first of all, women, you can only do this very narrow, that you have to have a career and you have to leave your family, and that's the only way you can be fulfilled and be free and have a real, like you were saying, temporal sort of salvation. And then when it ends, it's just another way of enslaving women. It just, now you have to feel guilty if you don't want to do those things.
or embarrassed
Or-
of yourself, like
right.
yeah.
Like you haven't done anything
And
useful
even-
because.
We've talked about this before, but even how everything that a homemaker does, if you were just doing it out of the house for money, you'd be respected.
Right.
Like
Yes,
if you
it's
were
true.
a personal chef,
Then
you're like, oh well, that's great.
But you
What a
would
great
not
career
change
path.
diapers,
And if
though.
you're like,
You're
I'm a
a personal
personal
You could be a
chef.
high-end nanny, maybe, and be
And then you
okay.
can-
Yeah, but you could have,
Yeah.
you could, anything that, or like, I'm a decorator, or I'm a party planner, or I'm, all of the things that a wife
So
and mother
true.
will do individually are respected, like, I'm in child development. I'm in,
Right.
like, I do these things. All
a
of them are
specialist.
respected. I'm a specialist,
in this.
and I don't do it in my own home for my own people, and that's what gives me some kind of street cred.
Here's the other thing, though. I think feminism, and I hope I can articulate this. It's as though this is if you do these amazing things, then you can be respected. But the person who's just a file clerk, do they have any respect?
Right.
No, because they haven't changed the world, and maybe they're
Right.
not fulfilled or happy.
Right.
And it turns out with the gospel, it doesn't matter what job you're doing. This is what the reformers were saying. It doesn't matter if you sweep the streets or you rule a country. You're loving God. You're spreading the gospel.
Right.
Anything you're doing, like it.
And you're
applies to all
part
men.
of his
Yeah.
plan that is accomplishing
Right.
something
Right.
beyond what you're just doing.
Right.
Like
Feminism
God's
is
not just
only-
cleaning the streets with you; He's
Right.
building a kingdom with you, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
look, this not important thing is still being used.
And I
Right.
think feminism says, look, we have something for the top-notch crowd, and the rest
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah.
You're
Wow.
just
Or
them.
even like when I was reading I don't even remember where this was, feminist stuff, when I was writing Even Exile, I ran across this idea of the betrayal of women. Like if you don't do this, you are
Yes.
betraying
Yes.
womankind. So like if your husband gets a job somewhere else and you move with him,
and you followed him.
you have betrayed women.
Because women can't be in power if you're
Right.
not trying to be in power. Like
Right.
we need half of the women need to be in power. Half of
Yeah.
all
It's
powerful
so
But
much
the thing is, like,
garbage.
that's
It's
all.
ridiculous.
That's like the same as all of the guilt baggage that came along with, the sort of medieval Christianity too. Like just trying to earn your
I feel like
yes.
salvation with this unbelievable pile
I have
that
to
you're
say,
trying
I
to
just
dig
do
out
so
of.
you know
these
that
things
that
will
famous
make my life will be worthwhile.
Yeah.
the famous Chesterton quote of, I think it's from Orthodoxy, where he says that, with the cry, we will not be dictated to, like 10,000 women rose up and became stenographers.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like not even just a tiny bit dictated to. Real literally, we're going to be secretaries.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the heck are you doing here? You know what I mean? Like, with this cry, you can't be the boss of us. And we're going to go get employed somewhere with rules about what hours we have to be there and what we're doing. And but the thing that I think is interesting is that Christian women, like, I'm assuming, our listeners, we mostly have women who already believe in the role of women at home and with your children, and
but I think they can feel guilty about that
yes,
still.
but I think one of the more important things is they think it's still not powerful.
Right.
They don't realize that you're actually in the powerful position. Like, and if you're thinking, I've got to get somewhere where I could do something that actually would make something happen. And like, no, you may actually already be there. Like,
and that's I think the reformers really clung to that and brought it to the surface and said, no, this is how God changes society through families.
Yeah.
Through people being faithful in the home. And then you can see, there's just a little section in the book that talks about, here are some of the changes that happened because of the Reformation, starting with more people being born, actually.
Oh,
isn't that, it
turns out people
fancy
get
that.
married.
And also when
Funny
you value people, like we said this earlier, that I just noticed it in passing, and I was like, oh, that's actually kind of an awesome thing to think about. But that if you think you only have this life, not eternity, then you're like, every couple of years of my life counts, so why would I want to put anything in with being pregnant and nursing and like this major output of my life for someone else? Or if you're thinking, like, Moses is coming up on being out of diapers, but it's been 13 years for us. You know, like,
diapers.
That someone has been in diapers. and that's a lot of diapers, you know, in 13 years. And 2 different stretches where we had 3 in diapers.
I never
twins. It was the twins. I'm just putting that out there so you all know it was the twins, and plus 1 on either side of them.
But I don't think that makes it easier. Twins. I think
no, but I
twins
just wanted to
actually
clarify that I
harder.
didn't have like my 7-year-old in diapers at any
that is a
point.
good
It was
point.
the twins and then the baby. But the point in all of this is that I was thinking, if you think this is all we have, then you don't have any time to spare. And if you think that we have eternity, then every eternal soul is beyond important. Like, you're like, what could I be doing
that would be
worth more time than this eternal person?
Yeah.
You know, like this is definitely worth my life. It's not like, I'm making this kid lunch again, wasting up my life.
Well,
Wasting
whenever
it
you're
up.
looking at your work, like, with your eye on the scale, you know, it's just always a bad way of approaching
Like,
it.
too much of
what
it.
What is this doing for me? How is this getting me ahead? Who is making up for this lost time?
So
what
I
does
think
my
that's
husband owe me now that I did
feminism really
this?
is at its root. It's selfishness. It's always arguing for its own, for you and your class of people, not for the gospel, which is actually good for everyone.
Right.
And that's where these women in the Reformation, they had no concept of that. They're arguing they're advancing the gospel. They're arguing for the gospel. It's entirely different.
And that reminded me what you said about that. It's like, it's always a bad thing when you have your hand on when you're always thinking in terms of, what if I put out now that I should get something back? That's always, oh my word, it's the worst. And we've all witnessed it. We've all been tempted that way, and we've all seen how badly it goes when someone does that. You know, like, it's always like, I did this for you, and everyone's like, and nobody wanted you to, right?
And everybody wishes you hadn't.
And everyone's like, if only you would have not done this, we would have all had a much better day if you just stayed out of this situation.
One of my kids said the other day, oh, Mom, I'm so sorry you have to clean up after me. I didn't mean to make all this mess and have you clean up. I said, in about 20 years, you can clean up after your own kid who does this, just like my mom cleaned up after me.
I was just thinking, the thing about that is that we talked earlier about it being women really being in powerful positions and not knowing they are. Like, that oftentimes the more sacrificial the role, the more powerful it actually is, the more influential that is.
Well, that's because God's logic is always
because he does
not
it that
intuitive.
way. Because look at our Savior who changed the whole world. You know, you're like, oh, right. Who came humbly and died and gave himself for us.
Yeah. And we all know that to get to the front of the line, you have to go to the back.
Yeah.
That's how God made it.
So what I was saying is that while we think
that... talking about, did you see me at the back here?
Yeah, everyone. I'm going to the back strategically so I can be at the front. So the thing about that, though, the thing about that being, though, a powerful position is that it's also true when you said not trying to weigh it all the time, not trying to keep track of everything that you've given. It's also true that like,
that discounts all your effort. Like, it actually takes away the power of it.
Because it's actually just selfishness. Then we all know that you weren't sacrificing for that person. You were just trying to make an exchange with them that they didn't
Or I
know
did
they were
something.
part
I
of.
did something good. And actually,
No,
I thought that,
Yeah.
you know that it's in John about the unless a seed goes into the ground and dies, like nothing happens from it. This struck me a while ago, and I've said it. You've probably both heard me say this, but saying it again, guys, because we're on the podcast.
Why not?
That
Because maybe
that
they
this is why I
Why not
really
an
think
encore?
I just think that this is why there are people who have faithful children. They're like grandparents. They're like things have gone really well for them, and people go back and say, "How did you do that? And what did you do?" And they're actually just kind of like,
I don't know.
you're like, I'm not actually totally clear on that. And the reason is because they were actually planting things and letting it die. Like, they were like planting and leaving, and they're like, yeah, look at this beautiful
They don't have
harvest.
their notebook of
Yeah, I'm
notes,
like, they're not
and
pulling
then-
out their scrapbook.
Exactly.
But like you say that sounds ridiculous, except for we've all heard people say it. We've all
Yes.
heard people say, and I did this for my children, and then I did this, and I put them in the best schools, and then I did this for them. And it's like they're showing you through a scrapbook of all the seeds that they should have planted and let die, but they didn't. And that's why there's not a harvest. Like,
But worse is when they're telling the child that, I would say.
yeah.
And then
Seven
"It's
other
for you."
things I did for you, and you, what have you ever done for me that
Yep.
it's so sad. So, okay, back to your book. What have you noticed anything from researching this and doing all this? What has changed in your life? Like, what did you think? I know, hard question. Has it changed anything for you that made you think like, okay, I want to be more like these ladies, or how have you done that?
Well,
That's a hard question.
yeah, but
You
I
can-
mean, I think work hard. Like, the whole idea that God has been so generous to us that we should just live a life that's generous to everyone else. They just had a deeper grasp of that, I think, because it was so clear the life they were coming from
Right.
to the life they're going to.
Yes.
That they're, what you were saying earlier about their level of sacrifice is far beyond.
Right.
And part of it's just the nature of the time they were in. They didn't have warm houses and indoor plumbing, which
Yeah.
I think is actually, so your whole life is a sacrifice anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
It was hard times no matter what.
yes,
Yeah.
it was. And the fleas, aforementioned fleas.
Uh-huh.
But I do think, actually, first of all, realizing all these little things that I'm doing do matter, and they really are powerful, and they really are what God uses to change the world, even though it doesn't feel like it. And then maybe I should get to work on doing more. Not in a way of earning salvation like these
No,
guys were trying to do,
no,
but in a
right,
way
yeah.
of saying, look what God's done. Get
Yes,
out there.
like
Right.
let's do
You
this.
only have so much time
Well,
left.
and
Hurry
that's the
up.
thing. You
Yeah.
can look at life as short, and so what's in it for me? Or life is short, I'd better get busy.
Yes.
Like,
there's not a lot
Yes,
of time.
there's
not
not a
much
lot
to
of
do.
there's
There's
so
not.
much work to get done. Yes.
Exactly.
And one thing that I think is interesting about what kind of life they were coming from is something that is not the way modern Christians think. Like, where you can say what could have been a factor in how one of that thing would be like disciplines of prayer, right?
Right.
That they actually thought in terms of praying constantly. So like, even if you didn't have a big group to have over, or you didn't have, I'm thinking specifically of like, we probably have listeners who are like, well, who would we have over, or what would I do?
Right.
What could I possibly do? And you think, well,
Yeah.
one
I don't
thing
have
is
refugees knocking
you're
on
not
my door.
thinking like, you're thinking every single believer has the word of God and a line to talk to God about, like asking him to do things, and you think it's something that we don't think of marking out, like I need a lot of time to do this, but like a nun, they would have spent tons of time in prayer, right?
Ideally.
Yes, but you assume that they would have. I don't know.
They
I'm
at
saying
least had this
saying
idea
someone like
of-
Katie Luther, who would have been a very faithful woman, right? Like, so you're having someone who was pious, who was holy, in
Right,
some way.
and so prayer, and just regarding people who feel like, well, there's no one I can have over. The nice part is, of course, we don't have records of most of the women who lived in this time period, but we do have records of people in a lot of different life stations. So sometimes they're not staying home with their kids because their kids got removed by a Catholic to take to a Catholic family.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, they have other things that God's given them to do. Or some of them had children and the children died. So, and one lady said, I'm not going to get married. I think I'm more fruitful not being married. I think I have the gift of celibacy and I can do
Right.
so much more this way. There's just a lot of different,
All different lifestyles.
right,
kind of.
and there wasn't this, almost now it feels like you either go to work or you stay home, and that's it.
Yeah.
And they had no concept of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because first of all,
You
were
do
home,
the
you
thing.
weren't- It wasn't a joke. Like it wasn't a thing of, well, if I don't get paid, then it's not really work.
No.
Because
And you feel like those women at home, were they spending all their day like on Pinterest and doing yoga and online shopping?
Turns out,
and even when you're looking at a queen, she wasn't doing anything
No,
like that.
no.
I
It's
love
true.
the idea though of like how foreign these ladies would seem to us now, and how incredibly intimidating they would be.
Yes.
Fleas and all.
No, you'd be like, you are a better woman than I. Like, I don't even know where to look right
Just
now.
tell
Like
me
this.
what to do. You tell me what you think this house should be running like.
Yeah.
I'd love to know.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but I think that's part of the thing is we are in a different time because we're supposed to be doing different things. Like
Yeah.
we're not supposed to
And we
be
have different
imitating
But the
them
level of
exactly.
effort shouldn't be.
Should be the same,
Yeah.
yes.
That's
And I think
what's
that's part of what's so wonderful
convicting.
about their stories is that it's like a record of how hard people can go.
Yeah.
Like where you're like,
Yes.
are you joking me? Like that was really, like,
It's like watching the Iron Man, but people's lives.
yeah. But you're
exactly.
like, no way. Like these people got so much done in
Yeah.
so like, what am I doing with
But you
my
know they
life?
didn't feel like they were getting a lot done
No.
every day.
You know that they had the same angst we have.
Yes. Wait, I didn't get to that. Oh, I was going to do this.
I know.
And just-
I know.
Oh man.
That's
There's
great.
there's a lot of good work to be done. Okay,
how long
is
we've
your
been
is your
talking
book
again.
yeah, but we
It's
probably
out. Her book is out.
probably
as
need
of
to
Reformation
edit,
Day, yeah?
but we
Yes,
probably
on
need
the
to edit
31st.
out like
Maybe
several
the
minutes
coffee,
of us.
the coffee
yeah,
run
the
portion,
beginning.
perhaps.
So it's out Reformation Day.
It was.
Awesome, and people can get it through Canon, right?
Canon
Canon
Press.
Press
or
or
Amazon.
Amazon.
Or Amazon,
Yeah.
Popes and Feminists.
You want to get it because
Christmas
you know
gift ideas.
you know
guys.
that you want to be
Thank you.
thinking of ways that you too could be more like these women.
Or give it to other women.
And
who
less
need
like
helpful
Right.
hints.
and less
Highlight
like
particular
I think you
sections.
could step it up a little.
less like modern feminist women
Yes.
and more like these women of old who were
Yeah.
pretty
Who were
boss.
free, but
They
were
were
working like
they were crazy.
Yeah.
And the kind of women who continue to be relevant. That's what I love that. They like
Yeah.
their faithfulness then continues to be encouraging people now.
Yeah.
Like
Yes, actually, as I read them, I mean, because you are studying them in depth when you're researching them, it's like I am excited to meet these people.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
am looking
like-
forward to hearing not someone else's version of their
Yeah.
lives, but actually
but
what they,
from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that is awesome.
That's
All right.
so cool.
Well, thank you. Should we wrap it up? Do we have a
We
tip?
probably- let's make Elise give us
Yeah, I
a
think-
Christmas tip.
At least we do tips.
We ran out. We
We've been
ran
doing
out. We're
Christmas
like, let's
tips.
think of tips from Christmas, but I can't think of any more.
Well,
I've
we-
said if you cut your own tree, buy two and wire them together because they're too thin.
Like a hot tip.
That's my
Well,
tip.
that's a good
Mhm.
idea. But
If
I
you're
can't have a real tree because my dad's allergic to them. Isn't that sad?
Oh, yeah.
Also, they stress me out anyway because will they survive till Christmas?
Well, they never do. They drop all their needles off. I feel
It's
like.
part of the joy of Christmas is that you
Is
get
the
to
crunch.
take the tray out.
the little crunch,
Okay,
crunch,
but
crunch.
one time we took the tree out. We live on a hillside. We took the tree out. We never saw the tree again.
Oh,
We took the tree out.
That sounds kind of ideal, though.
I don't know where it ended up because it just blew away. So I guess that's a hot tip.
That's a
You
hot
live
tip.
on a windy
on a
hill,
windy
Yeah.
spot.
We had one
just let it
time.
go.
put the tree outside and see what happens.
One time when I was morning sick, our tree fell down in the house, fully lit.
Oh,
What I even have to go check my records for why exactly that happened, except for that it stayed there for more than one day.
That's the best because when you're morning sick, it's like
Because I was
wow,
so
that's
sick
too
that I
bad.
was like, I just can't even. I was like, just in the room with a Christmas tree lit on its side.
Yes.
Like,
But you
that-
can't make yourself
it
know to
speaks.
deal with
It
No.
speaks to what the rest of life was like at that time
Yes.
that
Yes.
happened. Yeah. So what is a come on Christmas tip,
A
people?
hot tip.
Okay, what's your favorite like Christmas treat that you make?
Oh, I do love fudge.
Fudge is always amazing.
Do you
Yes,
want?
and this year I'm gonna have. Well, my children will listen to this. It's a good thing because this year I think I'm gonna give them gifts so my daughters can decorate their rooms because they really love decorating
Oh,
for Christmas.
that's a fun idea.
And they've had a few little things, but I think their Advent presents are gonna be things like you could decorate your room.
Oh,
That would
what
be
a
really
fun
fun.
idea. I love that.
Because
a
I
great
would
idea.
like for Annabelle, who's 11, to start really. She likes to decorate, but I'm not allowing her to decorate the entire house. You know, pick all the fabrics and stuff. But she could do her own room.
Oh, that'd
could
be
do-
fun.
that'd be super
That's
fun.
a great idea. That's a fun Advent.
Yeah,
idea.
I ordered Nutcracker socks for Advent already. Really.
Gosh,
I have ordered
you're
Christmas
just ahead.
socks for Advent too.
Good job. Mine are
Guys,
real cheap.
You're making me
cheap.
feel inadequate.
It was a 5-pack of Nutcracker socks on Amazon that I
Which
was
is
like,
fabulous.
I got 2 of those because I was like, there's enough that can pan for boys.
Can
that
I
are,
just
like,
confess
black and
that I
blue or
bomb Advent every year? It's so bad. Like, I'll start off strong. Then, I don't know, finals week gets me down. Anyway, it's like, oh, shoot, I have to have something for Advent again. And I
do
you
once
know.
a week ever since. So I
Oh,
had a
that's
baby on
smart.
December 19th, and so that year was the year I stopped doing every day because I was like,
That's
I
a
cannot.
great idea.
So every Saturday of Advent they get a gift.
Okay.
And otherwise we open stuff and we try and do the reading.
I just make
and stuff
normal
like that.
Christmas
But-
things Advent. That's the thing is it's not really, I'm not exceptional about Advent. We just I try to have some fun surprises. They love random clues. I do things like the clue in the mitten will be it'll be so sometimes it's like a random, depends on the age of the child who's going to be opening it. So if it was someone really
Do you
little.
do one per child per day?
No, it's just that they go through themselves who opens it each day.
They
So-
take turns.
Yeah, so if it was
right.
Shad opening it, it might be a picture of some place in the house. I might sketch something for him, or I might write a riddle. But at the end of the tunnel, when they get to the end, it's probably I put mugs full of eggnog in the sheet cupboard or something. It's
That's kinda cute.
it's basically we might have had eggnog anyways.
But
Now it's a
special.
thrill that we're
Right.
having eggnog. It's part of the fun. Or we do the oranges with candy canes in them. They love that one. So weird.
Oh, yeah.
You
the Whitleys
roll an
told us
orange,
this.
and so it softens, juices an orange. And the Bob's candy canes, if you snap the hook off of them and stab them into an orange, it will actually work as a straw for the orange juice. It sucks the orange juice up the outside. It digs little channels in
Who figured this out? That's
I don't know.
know.
But my kids love it, and it takes a very long time because you're squeezing the orange and
You have
taking,
to suck forever.
and it's a big odd time that you have with that. But that kind of thing is really fun for them. So I'll put I try to do the I don't know if it's a snack or something, whatever, on a tray, hide it somewhere in the house. You put it in the oven with a cute little, I don't
That's
know,
cute. We do a
In your
scavenger hunt
microwave.
for stockings.
my magic broken
Her
microwave.
broken microwave
Oh.
that she still has in the house.
Yeah. It's
Anyway,
in a
I was
hood.
just telling her she should keep it for storage.
My
stuff.
grandmother used to do the dishwasher. She just put napkins in there. She didn't buy. But yes, we do a scavenger hunt every year for the stockings, and the kids love it. That's
On
our-
Christmas morning?
On Christmas morning.
What a fun idea
That is fun. I don't do that one because
But
I
I don't
love
do
it.
what you're
It's an
describing.
awesome idea.
Microwave
that's
advent
an
gifts.
awesome idea. Yeah. It's an awesome idea, but I think that I would go
That's
bonkers
really fun.
trying to come up with this.
No, no,
Do you
no.
put them all
I-
together?
Andrew does this.
Yeah,
scavenger
yeah,
hunt.
okay.
I do not do this.
That's the key. The secret
I
key
do
to
the
success.
making Christmas food.
Yeah.
Andrew does the-
So I had a confession that I feel like when you said fudge, I don't think I have made fudge since I was maybe in elementary school.
I made fudge.
I am a non-fudge participant.
I was for a long time because in fourth, my mom used to have all the deacons. I was in a Baptist church, so that's 200 or something people over for a Christmas party every year. And at some point, I bonded with the fudge tray far more than I should have. And so for years, I didn't like fudge, but I have returned to my fudge love. And now
You made yourself sick on fudge.
I
Is
know
that
it.
what?
Yeah, pretty much. And it was years of sickness. I wouldn't get anywhere near it. For
Oh my
ages.
word, that's so funny. So I just don't have, now it knocks me out. One piece of fudge is too,
I love
So
fudge.
what do you
woof.
make for
Oh, I
Christmas? What
love
do you
fudge.
All kinds of other, I guess, I think I maybe have given this tip, I don't know. But I write down a list of all the fun things that we make ever for Christmas. All the recipes that we like. Ninja bread boys and sugar cookies and whatever. And then the whole family votes on the ones that they want this
That's
year.
really cute.
And so then I take the winners, the finalists, and we make one or two a week through December. But that helps me because I like to cook and bake. So you were constantly expanding the repertoire of things we have at Christmas time, which gets really out of control. If you're
Because actually you can't have dessert.
we actually
at
cannot
every
eat this much.
meal.
No,
Instead
it's
of every
hideous.
meal,
It's
which is what it turns
it
into.
becomes hideous, and then it's not fun. And I realized, wait, to have something be a tradition, it does not have to happen every single year. It just circles back around. So Ninja Bread Boys, we don't do every year, but we didn't do them last year, so they'll probably pick them this year. But I have these are the Christmas things we make. pick the ones that you're most excited
That's
about.
a great idea.
And then I just put them, I meal plan them in December. I put them in the week. Like, I'm going to make this one this week, and I'm going to make this one this week. And it's surprisingly more chill than...
That's a great idea. I like it.
That's what I do. Yeah.
That is a good
All right, I
idea.
think we should wrap
look
it
at
up.
us. We crested over an hour, which we've never done before, but
No,
we've
but
never
we only
driven
got
around the town
down to the meat of
talking either.
podcasting after a while.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably
Elise,
good.
thanks for jumping in my dirty car
Thanks for having
and
me.
talking about your book. I'm
so glad you
excited
did.
about the book. Everyone buy
I
the
am
book.
too. Buy the book. Do
Yeah.
it. We'll share links. Okay.
All right.
Goodbye.
New St. Andrews College thanks you for listening.